So, I've got something super cool for you today. And honestly, I think this one's going to be really eye opening for a lot of our listeners. We're talking about English reductions. Welcome to the English Mastery Podcast. I'm Dennis.
And I'm Emily. And reductions, this is like one of my absolute favorite topics. It's one of those things that just unlocks so much when you finally get it.
Totally. And if you've ever listened to a native English speaker and thought, wait, did they just skip half the words? You're not alone. Like, that is such a common experience for learners. And today, we're going to break down exactly why that happens.
Right, right. And the great news is you don't need to be at some advanced level to start using these. You really just need to recognize the patterns and then practice out loud. That's really it.
Yeah, practice, that word that scares everybody. But don't worry, we're going to make it fun today. So let's get into it. All right, so before we jump into the actual reductions, let's just let's just make sure we're all on the same page with some key vocabulary. Emily, kick us off. What's a reduction?
So, a reduction is basically a shorter way of pronouncing words in fast, natural speech. Like instead of saying going to, you say gonna. It's the same meaning, it's just, compressed, faster, more flowy.
Flowy. I love that. Very technical. And that connects to another vocabulary word, blend, because when we reduce words, we're actually blending the sounds together, right?
Exactly, exactly. And that's the thing. When you blend sounds, they sort of melt into each other? They don't have hard stops, and that's what gives English its rhythm, its beat.
Right. And rhythm is a big one. I think a lot of learners don't realize that English has this very specific rhythmic pattern. It's not every syllable is stressed equally. It bounces, you know?
Yes, and when you reduce words, you're actually leaning into that rhythm. You're connecting sounds. You sound more natural, more confident. You sound like you belong in the conversation. Do you know what I mean?
You sound like you belong in the room, which is honestly all any of us want, to just belong in the room.
Dennis, are you speaking from personal experience right now?
Every single day, Emily. Every single day. Okay, let's talk about the actual reductions. So let's start with the big three, the ones you're going to hear constantly, especially in workplace conversations. And those are gonna, wanna, and kinda.
Right, and these are everywhere. I'm gonna send it today. Do you want to join the call? I'm kind of busy right now. They're just super, super common in casual workplace chat. Like, not in a big formal presentation, but just day to day.
Right. And that's an important distinction. Like, if you're standing up in front of the board presenting quarterly numbers, you probably want to say going to. But if you're in the break room talking to a colleague, gonna's totally fine, natural even.
Totally. It's really about reading the room, right? Casual context, casual language. And that's what I love about reductions. They're not about being sloppy, they're about being socially aware. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. And then we've also got the next set, hafta and gotta. So have to becomes hafta and got to becomes gotta. And I think gotta might be like one of the most fun ones to say. I gotta run to another meeting. I don't know. There's something very cinematic about it.
Cinematic. Okay, Dennis. You've just described gotta as cinematic. That is a choice.
I stand by it. I gotta go sounds way more dramatic than I have to go. Way more. Anyway, the next one is really, really interesting. And I think it's one of the main reasons listening feels so hard for learners. Emily, explain Didja and Dya.
Oh, this one. Yes. So this is where two separate words just they collide, right? Did you becomes didja. Do you becomes dya. And the thing is, if you're listening for two distinct words, you're just not going to hear them because they arrive as one sound. Like, did you get my email sounds nothing like, did you get my email? It's a totally different sound pattern.
That's such a good point, and I think this is where like a lot of learners feel honestly a little defeated because they've studied hard. They know the vocabulary, they know the grammar, and then they listen to a native speaker, and it's just a wall of sound. And that's because of exactly this sounds blending, colliding, connecting.
Right. And the good news is, once you know the pattern, your ear, like, it adjusts. It starts to catch it, you know? It's not magic, it's just pattern recognition, and that's something anyone can train.
And then the last one, which is so tiny but so impactful, is the reduction of and to just like a quick little sound. Sales and marketing. I'll call you and update you. It's barely even a sound, honestly, but it's everywhere.
It is everywhere, and it's one of those things that, like, nobody teaches you explicitly, but once you start listening for it, you hear it constantly, like, constantly. It makes everything so much smoother.
Okay, so let's get a little more personal here because I think the best way to really internalize this stuff is to connect it to your own experience. Emily, when you think about where learners notice reductions the most, is it in meetings, movies, just casual chat?
Oof, that's a great one. I think honestly movies and TV shows, right? Because there's no subtitles to fall back on. Well, sometimes there are, but and the actors are speaking fast. They're like emotionally charged. They're reducing everything, you know? And learners are just trying to keep up. But actually, movies are like one of the best places to train your ear for this stuff.
That makes total sense. And I'd say for a lot of people, the hardest environment is actually a meeting because you can't pause a meeting, you can't rewind. And there's like this extra pressure of needing to respond in real time. So if you miss what someone said because of a reduction, that's a little stressful.
Oh, absolutely. And that's actually a great segue into which reduction is the easiest to start using right away. Because I think like gonna is just it's the gateway, you know? Everyone knows gonna. It's in songs, it's in movies, it's everywhere. So that's the one I'd tell anyone to start with.
Agreed. Gonna is like the training wheels of reductions. Very accessible, very safe. And once you're comfortable with that, you kind of naturally start picking up the others. It's like once you unlock one pattern, your brain starts looking for more of them.
Right? And this connects to something really interesting. Like what situations at work actually make you speak faster or more carefully? Because I think that's worth thinking about. Like, you know, when you're nervous, you might actually slow down and become super formal. But when you're relaxed, that's when the reductions come out naturally. That's such a good observation. And I think that's exactly why reductions feel so tied to confidence. When you feel confident, you speak more naturally. You reduce, you connect. And the cool thing is, it kind of works the other way too. Like if you start using reductions deliberately, it can actually make you feel more confident. It's like a confidence loop.
A confidence loop. I love that. And that ties into something I think about a lot, which is how do reductions help you feel more included in a conversation? Like when you can understand what's being said, when you're not lost because of a reduction, you just feel part of it. You feel included, you feel like you belong there.
That's real. And I think that's the whole point of this, right? It's not about sounding like a movie star or impressing anyone with your accent. It's about just feeling comfortable, feeling like you can hold your own in the conversation.
Exactly. And here's one more thing I think is really valuable to ask yourself. If you were to record yourself speaking English right now, what would you want to improve first? Speed, clarity, or confidence? Because like your answer kind of tells you where to focus.
Oh, that's a great self-assessment question. And I think for most people, it's actually confidence, even if they say speed, because speed without confidence just sounds panicked. But confidence, like confidence naturally brings a good rhythm, a natural pace, and the reductions just follow.
That is so well said. Confidence brings rhythm. And rhythm, that's what makes speech sound natural. So like really it all connects, right? It's one big circle.
Okay, so before we wrap up, let's talk about the actual how to, because knowing what reductions are is great, but how do you actually practice them without it feeling weird or forced?
Right. So the routine I love, and it's super simple, it's like 3 minutes, is you take one sentence, read it slowly first, then read it naturally, connecting the words. Then you record yourself once, and then you just listen back. Did you reduce anything? Did it sound smooth? That's really it.
3 minutes, that's all. And the recording part is key because your brain, it hears itself differently when you're speaking versus when you're listening to a playback. And sometimes you'll surprise yourself, like, oh, I actually did connect that, or wow, I really didn't.
Exactly. And the goal isn't perfection, right? It's not about sounding like a movie actor. The goal is just to sound clear, relaxed, natural, like someone who belongs in the room, right? That's it. That's the whole thing.
For someone who's been saying belongs in the room this whole episode, Emily, you might just be onto something. That should be like our tagline, the English Mastery Podcast, helping you belong in the room.
I'm sending that to marketing right now. But yeah, I think that's really what it's all about, not perfection, just connection, just like natural human communication.
Well said. And if you want to go even deeper on this, because there's a whole written version of everything we covered today, you can head over to allaboutenglishmastery.com. The article is there, the vocabulary list is there. There are even discussion questions you can use to practice with a friend or a tutor. It's all there. And hey, if you're not signed up for the All About English Mastery newsletter yet, you're kind of leaving free stuff on the table, and nobody wants to do that. Head over to allaboutenglishmastery.com and sign up. You get practical English tips, articles just like the one we covered today, and it's a great way to keep your English moving forward between episodes.
Yes, and it's really practical stuff, not just grammar rules and boring textbook.
Book content. It's real English for real situations. So, like, go sign up. You'll be glad you did.
All right, so let's do a quick recap before we go. Today on the English Mastery podcast, we talked about English reductions, what they are, why they exist, and why understanding them is so important for both listening and speaking. We covered gonna, wanna, kinda, hafta, gotta, didja, duh, and the little n that replaced and. And we talked about how practicing just 3 minutes a day can actually make a real difference.
And remember, reductions aren't lazy English. They're normal English. They're what makes the language sound natural and confident and human. So, like, embrace them, practice them, and most importantly, just don't be afraid to try them out loud. That's where the real progress happens.
Out loud. That's the key. Not in your head, out loud. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with someone who's working on their English. Leave us a review if you're listening on a podcast platform. It genuinely helps us reach more learners. And we'll see you next time on the English Mastery Podcast.
See you next time. And remember, you belong in the room. Go show them.
That's actually a really good sign off. I'm going to steal that.
You're gonna steal it. Classic.